ተመልካቾቻችን እንደምን ሰንብታችኋል? እንግዲህ በአሁኑ ሳምንት ያለፈው ሳምንት እንዳቀረብንላችሁ Empower the Community Weekend ላይ ተዘጋጅቶ የነበረውን ፓነል ዲስከሽኖች ነው እንግዲህ ዘንላችሁ የምንቀርበው። በዛሬው ጊዜ ደግሞ የምትመለከቱት ፓነል ዲስከሽን ሲቪክ ኢንጌጅመንትን በተመለከተ ነው። እንግዲህ ኢትዮጵያውያኖችና ኤርትራኖች በዚህ በአሜሪካን ሀገር ኑሯችንን ቀጥለንበት አሜሪካኖችም ሆነን በምንኖርበት ጊዜ የኛን ኢንትረስት ለማስጠበቅ እኛ የምንፈልጋቸውን ነገር እንዲስተላለፍልን በዚህ በአሜሪካን ሀገር ፖሊሲዎች ውስጥ እንዲካተቱልን ስንፈልግ ፓርቲሲፔት ማድረግ መቻል አለብን ፖለቲካል ፕሮሰስ ውስጥና whether ይሄ እንግዲህ ኮንግረስመን ይመረጥ ሴኔተር ይመረጥ በየሰፈራችን በየመንደራችን ስኩል ቦርድ ይመረጥ ኢትዮጵያውያኖችና ኤርትራኖች አክቲቭሊ ኢንጌጅ ማድረግ ስንችል ብቻ ነው የራሳችንን ኢንትረስት የምናስጠብቀውና ለምን መሳተፍ አለብን ለምን እዚህ ፖለቲካል ፕሮሰስ ውስጥ አሜሪካን ሀገር የአሜሪካን ፖለቲካ ውስጥ እንዴት መግባት እንዳለብን ለምንም መግባት እንዳለብን ይሄ ዲስከሽን ሰፋ ባለ መልኩ ይመለከታል ማለት ነው። በዚህ ፓነል ዲስከሽን ላይ የቀረቡት እንግዶች አቶ ጥበቡ አሰፋ፣ ሳሙኤል ገብሩ፣ አሌክዛንደር አሰፋና አማሃ ካሳ ናቸው። እነዚህ በጣም አክቲቪስት የሆኑ በዚህ ሀገር ፖለቲካል ሲስተም ውስጥ ብዙ ስራ የሚሰሩ ኢትዮጵያውያኖች ናቸውና እስቲ ወደ ቆይታው ልሰዷችሁና ከነሱ ጋር ይሄንን ፕሮግራም ተከታተሉ።
On the panel, we're going to have Samuel Gabru, who's coming from Massachusetts. He's the Director of Community Engagement and Partnership at Cambridge Community Center. He's been recently run for Cambridge Council as well. He'll tell us about his leadership and his political run and all of that and the scholarships he runs. Then we have Ammaha Kasa, who's founder and executive director of African Communities Together. And this is ACT ACT out of New York, I believe. So please welcome Ammaha Kasa. Next, we have Alexander Asafa, Democrat elected to the 42nd District of the Nevada State Assembly. He's going to be coming here to tell us about his amazing journey as well. So please welcome Alexander Asafa. And finally, from here in our own neighborhood, Tebabu Asafa, who is a community leader, a social entrepreneur, Blessed Coffee social enterprise as well, on coffee free and fair trade for our farmers, an amazing person who organizes festivals here in the region as well, Tebabu Asafa. So this is our inspiring panelists. We're going to hand the mic over to Hanna Joy, Selassie, and then I'll be back to tell you about other things. Please enjoy.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing this afternoon? All right, let's get some more energy going. How's everybody doing? All right. Well, hopefully everyone that attended that previous panel is feeling extremely inspired. Incredible, phenomenal woman I still see here in the audience. Thank you to Helen and the Helen Show for bringing us all here together today. Let's talk civic engagement. All right, we have 4 people here. If we could, just to start off, let's talk about what civic engagement means to you, and if you could, maybe a couple lines about the work you do and why it matters.
I'm reminded of a Bible verse that I think about often, Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. Scripture says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free, but do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love." And that is sort of a guiding message for me, because for me, civic engagement and leadership, like the panel before us, it's really about finding issues, finding what your vocation is, what your calling is, and doing it to the best of your ability, but doing it in a way where you're building coalitions and lifting people up. And so for me, civic engagement, as an immigrant, as a black person, as a man in this country, it's about organizing my communities, creating a platform for them, and me being a channel, being a conduit where they can voice their concerns and their highest aspirations.
Thank you, Samuel. How about you, Ammaha?
Great. So I think for me, civic engagement, we are all acted upon by forces that are bigger than us. Politics, law, the economy. And civic engagement is simply the idea that we don't have to just be acted upon by those forces. We can act upon them. We can shape them through collective action. We can change laws. We can drive policy. We can fight for a fair share of public resources like good jobs and affordable housing, not individually, but through collective action. And the form that takes in my work, I'm the director and the founder of African Communities Together. So first of all, we help people with direct services in our community, immigration, legal, jobs, those kinds of things. Second, we train and develop leaders. And help us understand these forces that shape our lives. What's happening in immigration policy? How do we vote? How do we become citizens? And then we turn that into action through campaigns. And you'll hear more about those campaigns later, but trying to raise wages for the thousands of Ethiopian and other African workers at the DC airports, fighting to save immigration policies that many of us and our families depended on to come to this country. So for me, that's what civic engagement looks like.
All right, thank you, Amaha. How about you, Alexander?
Well, for me, civic engagement is making sure that your voices are heard, making sure us as a community are engaged with the local system, with the political system, and with government and how it works. So when we are engaged and are participating in the system, our voices matter. We are telling how government should function, how our laws should be made, what kind of perspectives should be incorporated in making law. So what we did since mid-2016 and the entire 2017 was we got out there and registered people to vote. So we registered people in masses, and we made sure those people were aware of who the candidates were and where they should go vote and how they should vote. Finally, our community started being heard. Our community was marginalized, forgotten, and neglected for so long. We have so many local issues that in part contributed to myself becoming a candidate finally. But that stopped when we started engaging and practicing and exercising our civic responsibilities. That stopped. All these candidates, all these elected officials started coming looking for us now because they now see the value and the power in our voice. So for me, civic engagement is actually carrying out our civic responsibilities and making sure that our perspectives are incorporated into the running of our governments.
Okay, thank you. Sababu?
Hi, Tanastani. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, good. First, thank you to Helen and EBS for putting this. I know it's hard to put together such an event, and I'd like to personally thank them for the effort. We really have to appreciate and get involved and support this kind of platform. It's very important to the well-being of our community. That said, civic engagement to me is I'm gonna make it a very simple story. My son is sitting there. When he was 8, I was taking a walk in the park, in Tacoma Park. There was a wooden bridge, and the panel where the walkway is, the wood was rotten. And my son said to me, "This is dangerous, it has to be fixed." And I said to him, "You are a citizen, you need to challenge the government, you have to go to the city council meeting and tell them that this needs to be addressed." So next time there was a city council meeting, and then I say to him, "You also have to keep in mind there's costs associated with fixing it. So that comes from the tax that we pay. So we're demanding." So then at the next council meeting, I took my son, and at a public hearing, he was 8. At a public hearing, he stood and warned the mayor and the council, the bridge in the park is dangerous, they need to pay attention and fix it. And the bridge got fixed. That is civic engagement on a small scale. And in a larger context, We come here chasing the American dream. We go to school, we work hard. Our families take a big risk, leave their homes, their culture and their community in Ethiopia. They come here to raise us, they send us to school, only to get unemployment. That is 1/3 of the power you need. Just like the money you get by working and the money you save in your bank, you need to have a social capital. Yeah. Your presence, your relevance in the community you live in. You need to have a political capital, your ability to vote, your ability to influence the policymakers from a city, county, a state, and federal level. If you're not active in your community, if you don't volunteer in the non-profit organizations that we have, not only Ethiopian, American, how many of you have volunteered to the Ethiopian community centers wherever you live? How many of you have participated in the food program in your community? You need to be recognized for your relevance because you don't live alone. You have to show your worth. So civic engagement is where you build your capital. Just like you put money in your account, you need to put on a daily basis, you have to build your social capital, you have to build your political capital, you know who represents you in the city, and the county, and the state, and the federal level. So if there is an issue, you take that card and say, I need to cash on. So the money that you make is only 1/3 of the power you can build individually as well as a community. And I am sorry to say, my Ethiopian brothers and African brothers are finishing last in that space. Yeah. You need to be aware, you need to be active, you need to be engaged. Otherwise, our ability to move in this society will be compromised. Our dreams will be undermined. In fact, if we're not on the table, we'll be on the menu. Later on, I'll tell you how we're going to be on the menu. So it is a very, very serious, important issue. The reason that I came today, I should have been with my family, but to make this emphasis, to wake you up and say, you need to be awake. You need to be active. You need to build your social capital. Otherwise, your humanity, your Ethiopian identity will be compromised. Thank you.
All right.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። የምትከታተሉት ያላችሁት በኦገስት 18 ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ላይ ተዘጋጅተው ከነበሩት ፓነሎች ውስጥ አንዱን ነው። ይሄ ሲቪክ ኢንጌጅመንት ፓነል ነው ማለት ነው። በዚህ ላይ የቀረቡት እንግዶቻችን አቶ አማሃ ካሳ፣ አቶ አሌክዛንደር አሰፋ፣ አቶ ሳሙኤል ገብሩና አቶ ጥበቡ አሰፋ ናቸው። እስቲ ወደዛ እንግዲህ ልውሰዳችሁ እንደገና።
Such great points there, and maybe one common theme that you may have noticed is this getting involved, right? Getting involved and staying active in your community. And I'll be honest here, I didn't attend my first city council meeting until my mid-20s, until I was covering it for a TV station. So I don't know, how many of you all have been to city council meetings, but such a great point there to take your children to these meetings, get them involved. So whether it's taking them to a city council meeting, getting them to vote, getting them involved, volunteering, what ways can people get active in their community starting today?
So to your point on city council meetings, the reason why I ran for city council last year in Cambridge, Massachusetts was precisely because of that. The President of the United States is not going to fix your potholes. The President of the United States is not going to clean your parks. That's your city council. The U.S. Department of Education is not going to set your school curriculum. That's your school committee, your school board. So what happens in local government has an immediate impact on your life. And let's forget sort of the national politics and the role of money in politics for a second. When we're talking about local politics and we're talking about city council meetings, those who show up to those meetings, those who provide public commentary and forward petitions and protests in front of City Hall, it is their voice that gets heard. And I'll give you one example. Bicycle safety is a big issue in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Cambridge was rated as America's best walking city a few years ago, and people love biking. With that comes a lot of challenges because our infrastructure is not equipped for bicycles, cars, pedestrians all sharing the same space. Now, there was an incident where a truck killed this woman on a bicycle, and a few weeks later, dozens of bicyclists stormed the city council meeting, and in one night, the city council passed nearly almost 10 policy orders, pretty much resolutions, saying that bicycle safety is important and that we're going to look at 10 different issues and explore these topics. And so really it matters not who has the most money for local politics, but who shows up, who takes these spaces, who speaks. And I'll just give you one example. When I was a teenager, I was part of a collective where we tried to lower the voting age in the Cambridge local elections to 17. Now, Tababu, you know this, Tacoma Park, Maryland does this, where in Tacoma Park, as a 17-year-old, you can vote in local elections. And so we thought that was a pretty neat idea. In Massachusetts, the state government controls voting laws. So we passed a home rule petition within our city council. The city council endorsed our initiative. We brought it to the legislature. Our state representatives endorsed the issue, but it died in the Committee on Election Laws. They thought we were crazy. But you know, we had this idea because we said, if you're 17, you're most likely still at home, you're in high school, you're with your family, why not start the culture of voting as a 17-year-old before you go off to college or the workforce? Because at that point, for a lot of people, you know, absentee voting seems like a whole different concept, and a lot of young people don't do that. So we thought it'd be a neat idea to lower the voting age for that reason. But, you know, local elections, just a few votes can sway the outcome. And showing up and speaking up in meetings. In Cambridge, you get 3 minutes to speak. That's actually a lot of time. And you can speak about anything that's on the agenda that night. And people do. But what ends up happening in Cambridge, if I can be very honest with this crowd, is the people who speak at city council meetings, the people who attend these discussions, they're over 60. They're predominantly white. They are homeowners. They have savings accounts. They don't look like us. And that's a problem because the laws, the ordinances that get passed primarily impact us. So to Baba's point, if you're not in the room, then, I mean, you're not even on the table. You're just sort of an afterthought, you know?
Thank you.
So I'm gonna go, Samuel, one further. You know, he was talking about how these local issues get, neighborhood issues get decided by city council. But I'll go one further and say even the big federal and international policy issues are local, right? You know, Samuel's neighbor, rest his soul, Ed Kennedy, or actually I guess it was Tip O'Neill.
Tip O'Neill
said,
yes.
You know, all politics is local,
Yep.
and all politics is local because. Members of Congress, Senate, House, get elected to represent the interests of a district. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons that, for example, that Ted Kennedy was such a champion of the Armenian diaspora and that Armenian issues were always on the top of the policy agenda was because there was a very powerful and well-organized mm-hmm. Armenian diaspora in the Boston area. So that's a model that we can emulate. I'm going to talk more later about economic campaigns yes. And jobs. But on the policy side, I'm an immigration lawyer. I work on federal policy issues. And we aren't in the room we black immigrants, African immigrants, mostly are not in the room. And we are on the menu. Yeah. When people were looking for a way to save the DREAM program, the DACA program, what did they look to trade away for it? The diversity visa program. Yeah. We all know the DV program, the green card lottery. Ethiopia is the #2 recipient of DV lottery visas after Egypt, right? So this is an African program. And because we aren't in the room when some of these policy decisions are made, mm-hmm. People say, well, we can trade that away to get something for the Dreamers, for DACA. And that's not how it should work. And luckily, we were able to fight back, work with the Congressional Black Caucus and with other national black immigrant groups like Black Alliance for Just Immigration, the Undocu Black Network, to save the DV program. But I promise you, it's going to come again. Thank you, sis. It's going to come again. It's going to be up on the chopping block again. We know that Trump and some of the congressional Republicans have targeted this program. So through organizations like mine, or through just organizing a visit to your member of Congress, just get some of the churches, the business owners, the Mahabars and Idris and the associations together, go visit your congressperson and say, this may not be on your radar screen, but diversity visa matters to my community, and let me tell you why. Yep.
Let me underline what Sam just said about local elections and getting engaged in the affairs of your communities. These people who are elected from among yourselves, I mean, they're your neighbors, and it's not some stranger coming from somewhere else. They live among you, and they're elected by some relatively small number of votes. But these people are in charge of your paychecks. They decide how much you get paid for whatever it is that you're doing. Or if you should get paid equally as your fellow American who happens to look like somebody else. They're in charge of the schools that your children attend. They're in charge of a lot of things that you see and don't see that affect you on a daily basis. So when we're not engaged, somebody else gets to make a decision about you. So what we said in Las Vegas was that, okay, laws shouldn't be made, policies shouldn't be made that affect us without us. So what was going on around us kind of forced for one of us to step in and say, okay, we're gonna run, we're gonna win, we're gonna be a part of the decision-making process. So that's where I came in and I said, well, the system does not have a place for you. So if you're expecting that, here's the breaking news. You're never gonna find a place. So I literally brought my own chair and said, okay, I need a space around this table, scoot over. And that's what you sometimes have to do. When you are at the table, when you are part of the decision-making process, the policy-making process, you will be heard. Your values will be incorporated. What you care about will be incorporated in the lawmaking process. So you have to get engaged. And I was talking to Sam this morning. In this area, in Maryland, Virginia, and DC area, and I hear these numbers, there's over 300,000 of us. It is shameful. Shame on you, shame on me, shame on all of us that we don't even have one elected official. Not to school board, not to city council, not to nothing. Yeah. The people who are affecting your daily life are people who you don't even know about. You're not even engaging them. They're affecting the lives of your children. They're deciding the types of education that they should receive. Some of those educations may be inconsistent with your values, with your culture. When you're not electing and being elected and affecting the system, they decide what your children should turn out to be. So when that kid comes home with something that deviates from how you believe, it's too late to turn them around. You already lost that kid by not engaging in the system. So it is absolutely imperative that we get engaged, we vote, we elect, and we be elected. Otherwise, we don't make a difference.
Thank you.
Hi again, salam. And as my my perspective to this conversation is community activist. That's a title I wear proudly. So before I answer the question, I'm gonna challenge you. How many of you do you know are registered to vote? How many of you know your district? If you live in the state of Maryland, in the county you have a representative. In the state you have probably a senator, a delegate. And if you live in the city, you have a mayor. How many of you know your congressional district? How many of you know who represents you? I really want you to look at yourself and say, you need to wake up, because if we're not awake, our future is compromised. That said, let me give you an example in Tacoma Park, what happened a few years ago. There was a bridge being built. So that bridge was gonna be blocked and traffic was gonna be rerouted. So those who were active were afraid traffic was gonna come their way as a shortcut. So they mobilized, they cashed their political capital, they made a law to block traffic in the morning, traffic in the afternoon, so it doesn't drive by their house. What else they did? They also had the city build a speed bump so the car passing by their house doesn't speed. These are little privileges because they are very active. By the way, all that money is the money that we all pay. That's our tax base. Imagine, only few of the people say what we do with the money.
Yeah.
It's our money, it's our right. So somebody is benefiting from it. Okay, that's it. Let me dramatize it and tell you an example. About 10, 15 years ago, I had a friend who had a big immigration problem. That friend was told to leave. And we took the case through the court system. We went to the second highest court in the land, the circuit court. They couldn't do it. We spent over $30,000 on the issue. Finally, immigration was right on our face, saying, you have to depart. So we went to our political capital. I went to my congressman. My congressman eventually led me to the office of Senator Kennedy, who at the time was the chairman of the immigration committee. You know what the option I had? We had an option to sponsor a bill for my friend so that immigration cannot touch him. A bill on his name. That is the kind of right that you have. And the process will take about 2-3 years. Nobody could touch my friend under that process. So from a local street to having a bill written on your name, that's how America works. So your involvement is, it's critically important, critically. And as an activist, usually I'm active and they ask me, where are the Ethiopians? Because they see them busy in the economic space. If you go to Silver Spring, every other door is Ethiopian restaurant. Ethiopians are busy. When it's a civic issue, it's me and my wife, sometimes my son, and I'm asked repeatedly because it doesn't make sense. How can you be economically active and completely dormant on the civic space? It puzzles me. And another thing I'll tell you, the reason I said if you're not on the menu, if you're not on the table, you're on the menu. One time I was on the Hill, and lunchtime we're sitting having lunch, and there was a piece of paper being passed around to mobilize support for a bill that was voted down a couple of days ago. And it landed on my table, and the first thing it said was, 30 million Ethiopians and Eritreans are starving. We need to pass this bill. It was a $300 million humanitarian bill. I said, who is advocating for the children of Ethiopia and Eritrea? Apparently, the bill was voted down a couple of days ago. They zoomed on the senators who voted down. They were mobilizing support and pressure to make sure those senators were going to vote on a bill that was re-amended. At the back of it, all these food producing associations, they're trying to dump their food on our children. They want money to sell dump their. It is so disgusting to see because we're not active, even our humanitarian aid. That is sad. That is sad. So we need to wake up. I'm sorry. I'm here to provoke you. I'm here to look on the touch laws. Otherwise, I'm not paid. There has to be a reason why I'm here. I'm busy doing my thing. I want my fellow Ethiopians to be active. So literally, now that shows you, because you're not on the table, the children of Ethiopia are on the menu. They're using our name to sell their outdated, unsold garbage. Thank you.
Wow.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። የምትከታተሉት ያላችሁት በኦገስት 18 ኤምፓወር ዘ ኮሚኒቲ ዊኬንድ ላይ ተዘጋጅቶ ከነበሩት ፓነሎች ውስጥ አንዱን ነው። ይሄ ሲቪክ ኢንጌጅመንት ፓነል ነው ማለት ነው። በዚህ ላይ የቀረቡት እንግዶቻችን አቶ አማሃ ካሳ፣ አቶ አሌክዛንደር አሰፋ፣ አቶ ሳሙኤል ገብሩና አቶ ጥበቡ አሰፋ ናቸው። እስቲ ወደዛ እንግዲህ ልውሰዳችሁ እንደገና።
All right, well, hopefully we can take some of those challenges and apply them. Raise your hand if you're going to try and apply some of those challenges. Can we get everybody's hands up? Yeah, okay. You know, whether it's going to a city council meeting, like you said, or voting, you can see the impacts, right? In one case, it was a speed bump getting installed. In another case, there was bicycle safety getting installed, or, bicycle safety being pushed. So what are ways that you can use your voice, not just locally, nationally, but speaking back home, Ethiopia, Eritrea, East Africa, other countries around the world? How do you use your voice to be an advocate?
That's
Who's
a
looking
good
over here? Let's
question.
start left and go right this time.
That's
since
a
you're ready to
wonderful
answer.
question. I'm going to tell you a story because the story says it all. About 20 years ago, there was a crisis in Central America. The community here mobilized, in about a week, plane loads of food was flown to Central America to the tune of $300, $400 million humanitarian package in a week. And then 10 years later, there was Dirk in Ethiopia. And the activists, the organizations, the radio station, everybody was mobilized to raise money. I mean, for 3 months, the radio, the news, everybody was, I'm like puzzled. They were trying to raise money to save Ethiopia. So I called the organizer and I said, how much money are you going to raise? He said, I don't know. I said, what do you mean you don't know? You have to have a projection. Give me some round number. Think about it. He goes, I don't know. I think we will raise about $300,000. And I said, so why are you opening your mouth and saying we're going to help our people? $300,000 is nothing. We need millions and millions of dollars. So I said to him, forget it. We as a diaspora don't have money. What we have is political capital. I told them, change your strategy, mobilize Ethiopians nationwide, have them call their congressman, have them call their senators. Let's demand a $300 million humanitarian package to be delivered to Ethiopia immediately. That's where our power is. Forget about, in fact, the other day I was listening to the Prime Minister. I like what's happening. I like the Diaspora Trust Fund. But that's $30 million, 105 million people in Ethiopia. So our political capital can be used to tap into the resources we've been paying to the tax for the last, I don't know how many years ever since we got to this land. So our political capital, our mobilization to get the biggest, the most richest country in the world where we pay tax to, order to address our issue. So that's where the power is. That's where the power is. Next to that, later on we'll talk about the economy. So the power is on your political capital. The money you have, take care of your personal need. Use your political capital to help my people. Policy, economic package, be on the table. Otherwise, others are on the table shaping our future and the policy that matters in our, not only Ethiopia, Africa as well.
Thank you.
Well, how I can use my voice to locally, as I mentioned earlier, we have local issues that affect our community directly, and that's been the case for a very long time. We weren't heard. We attempted lobbying. We attempted strikes. None of it worked because we were guilty of our own problems. We caused our own problems because we weren't engaged with the system. So we weren't electing people. We weren't being elected. So what happened was all the ears that were supposed to be hearing our issues were shut down. So we were discounted. So what we could do locally is that we have economic issues. How you resolve them is, some of them are statute, they have to be changed. Some of the statutes have to be changed, the state laws. How you change that is by you actually sitting down and writing the laws that work for you, or finding someone else who is in charge of writing laws. So in this case, now locally, now that I am elected, we now have the pen to write the laws, the state laws. We will amend some of those laws. We will amend some of those laws that have been a roadblock for our community. So we'll get rid of those laws, and we will make sure that we are heard. Nationally, I mean, I don't want to mention his name, but the guy who is occupying the White House down the road, this guy has been a disaster. I mean, in part, my election, my candidacy was born out of a lot of frustration and locally, and the final trigger was the results of the 2016 election. How can we be a voice for our community, for the diaspora community around North America. We have to wake up and find candidates in every major American city to run for office, run for something, whatever it is. I don't care if it's a school board or city council or local legislative office, or if you can for Congress or Senate, whatever it is. That we need to find people that will represent our values, that will represent who we are as a nation, as people, as Ethiopians. So I am hoping that some people somewhere, some young man, some young woman out there will look at me and be inspired and step up. Give me a call if you do decide. I will help you. I will do everything in my power to make sure that our voices are being heard in the state houses, on the Capitol Hill, and everywhere. Internationally, you don't have to be in America, whether you're in America or in Africa or wherever you may be. You can make a difference. Look at me. I mean, I ran in a district that has about 56% of the voters in my district are white people. So when they see an African immigrant who speaks English as a third language showing up and knocking on their doors asking for their votes, I did surprise quite a lot of people. You will be heard. You just have to make sure that you are you explain yourself, you have a good strategy, you find commonalities with a lot of people that you don't think have commonalities with you. So those are the people that turned out and voted for me. They entrusted me in making the policies for the state. So if you see me and you are anywhere in North America or Africa, wherever you may be, get engaged in the affairs of your communities. So you can make a difference, you will be heard. When you are at the table, you have to be heard.
So I want to echo and underscore what Tababu and Alex have said, which is, you know, a lot of times we in the diaspora, especially the ones who've been here a longer time, you know, left longer ago, we're incredibly knowledgeable and sophisticated when it comes to politics in Ethiopia and Eritrea. I wish we were as knowledgeable and sophisticated when it came to politics in the US of A. Because this is where we live, this is where we make our money, this is where we vote. Ethiopia doesn't have dual citizenship, right? So we're either voting here or there. And this is where we can make our impact. And I think the first step is knowing and understanding what's going on. The second step is we really need to build our collective capacity. You know, if you're in international spaces, international development spaces, I wish our colleague Semhar Araya, she was supposed to be here on this panel. She spends a lot of time in international development spaces. Would also bring some gender balance to the panel, which would be good. But she had an emergency, so we miss Semhar. But if she were here, she might say that you know, everyone in international spaces, in the UN, and these international organizations, and USAID is talking about diaspora engagement, right? Even now, the Ethiopian government is talking about diaspora engagement. The problem I always say about the diaspora is it's like a cow that everybody wants to milk and nobody wants to feed. You know, how are we to contribute to our economy, the economy of our home countries, through remittances when people are struggling to make ends meet because they're working in poverty jobs below their education, below their skill level? You know, how are we to provide know-how for our you know, to help our countries develop when we are facing deportation through the draconian immigration policies that have been passed under this administration? We have to start by building our own community's capacity. In other communities, you look at the role that, for example, the Mexican consulate or the Filipino consulate plays in helping people fight back if their wages are stolen by their employer or help people connect to immigration legal assistance. We, you know, unfortunately, our consulates are not playing that role. We have to play it in our associations, in our mahabars, and our community-based organizations. We have to help people survive and thrive here so we have some capital to share with our countries of origin.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. For me, you know, if you ever take a flight, when they're doing the safety instruction, they always say, when the oxygen mask comes down, you put yours on first. Doesn't matter if you're a parent or whatever, you put yours on first, and then you put the mask on the person sitting next to you. And so what I think about when I think about that is, you know, we are so preoccupied, rightfully so, we are so preoccupied by what happens back home. And we all should be, right? Because we have family there, that's where we're from, it's our identity, whether we're Eritrean, Ethiopian, whatever, we're very occupied. But we have to learn from these other immigrant communities. They've struck a balance, okay? I mean, you know, they're involved here. You talked about the Armenians in Massachusetts. Yeah. Well, one of their own is a sheriff. He's my sheriff, Peter Katuzian. And, you know, I think it was like a year or two ago, the president of Armenia visited Massachusetts, and the sheriff was playing host the entire time. It was phenomenal to see. It was, you know, basically Massachusetts became little Armenia for a few days. And, you know, we're not there yet. We don't have that kind of capital. And so you're right. When we're talking about, you know, right now, one of the biggest issues for young people like me is the student debt crisis. We don't talk about that, how millennials are going to be crippled for decades trying to pay off these loans. Housing, right? I mean, the top way most Americans measure their net worth is through home equity. Not a lot of our people own homes, right? I mean, you know, other immigrant communities have their own community development corporations that finance home buyer programs. You know, how many of us are doing that? And so if we want to be active and helpful in Ethiopia or Eritrea beyond remittances, I think it's important that we build our own capital here, as Tababu said, whether it's your social, intellectual, political, financial capital, and then we will be in a better position, like the Mexicans, the Indians, the Chinese, the Armenians, the Israelis, and others, to be able to leverage that, and we can also influence US policy, like the Jews do. We can influence trade policy, and we can do a lot more if we do that.
ተመልካቾቻችን እንግዲህ ከረፍት ቆይታችን ተመልሰናል። የምትከታተሉት ያላችሁት በኦገስት 18 Empower the Community Weekend ላይ ተዘጋጅተው ከነበሩት ፓነሎች ውስጥ አንዱን ነው። ይሄ ሲቪክ ኢንጌጅመንት ፓነል ነው ማለት ነው። በዚህ ላይ የቀረቡት እንግዶቻችን አቶ አማሃ ካሳ፣ አቶ አሌክዛንደር አሰፋ፣ አቶ ሳሙኤል ገብሩና አቶ ጥበቡ አሰፋ ናቸው። እስቲ ወደዛ እንግዲህ ልውሰዳችሁ እንደገና።
Now we have about 7 more minutes and then we'll wrap up. So probably try and wrap it up. But I do want to talk about some of the impacts, and this was from Amaha. I know he's very passionate about talking about this, but you know, the relationship between civic engagement and economic empowerment. If you all could touch on that. Maybe you can touch on that, and we'll try a couple other questions before we wrap up.
Great. So if we look at what in Ethiopian and Eritrean communities like has been our strategy to get ahead in this country, it's like get an education, work hard, you know, love our family, pray to God, and those things are all necessary. But if we look at what other immigrant communities have done, they're not sufficient, right? Part of how people have raised their community out of poverty, moved into the middle class, is through organizing. People have organized politically to get our representatives in office, through ethnic associations, through churches and mosques. And people have also organized as part of labor unions, right? If you look at how Irish and Italian construction workers moved into the middle class, or Central American janitors were able to make enough money to send their kids to college, it was through labor unions. So my organization, African Communities Together, here in the DC area, we're working with 2 of the major labor unions, SEIU 32BJ and Unite Here Local 23, to raise wages for thousands of Ethiopian and other African workers at the DC airports. Both Dulles and Reagan, thousands of Ethiopian workers, probably the biggest single employer of Ethiopians in the region, if not the country. Last year, we were able to pass a wage policy that raised wages for thousands of those workers. They went from making as little as $8 to $12.75, multiplied by thousands of our community members. That's millions of dollars. in the pockets of our workers, our businesses like Tababu's, our churches and mahabars and those kinds of things. But the fight isn't over. There's still bad jobs. We're trying to make them into good jobs. So two things all of you can, you asked how do we get involved? Two ways people can get involved. First of all, one of our own, worker named Asanakic is here today. Can you stand up? You see it? Thank you. So this sister fought to get a union in her workplace and was unfairly fired by her employer, Huntley Corporation. Who is one of Huntley Corporation's biggest customers? Ethiopian Airlines. So we need to contact Ethiopian Airlines, the jewel of our country in many ways, of our homeland in many ways, and say, you should not be doing business with a company that is abusing our community and firing workers like Asan Nakic. So my colleagues are going to be passing out flyers with some information, but we're encouraging people to call Negisu Worku, who's the U.S. Vice President for Ethiopian Airlines. His number for those at home, 571-480-5230, or his email is negisuw, N-I-G-U-S-U-W, @ethiopianairlines.com. We need to leverage our economic power, as Tababu was saying. Last thing, the other thing that we're fighting at the airports with Unite Here is what's called English-only policies. These are deeply disrespectful policies that say even if you're on break, even if you're just talking to a friend, your language is not permitted in the workplace. This is discriminatory, and in many cases it's illegal as well. And it's happening at Dulles Airport and Reagan Airport. So those of you in the district, we're going to be going and visiting with members with employers at the airport in about 2 weeks and telling them, drop the English-only rule. Our community doesn't want to see you discriminating against our language and our culture. Contact us. You can find us on our website, www.africans, that's Africans with an S, .us. And come join us or come find me or one of my colleagues afterwards. Get involved, get active, as Tababu said, get woke. So.
Thank you, Amaha. Now we are, again, a few minutes left here. Just from the three of you all, if you can give your final words of advice, encouragement to the audience. All
right, this is a very good opportunity. First and foremost, once again, Helen, EBS, give them a... We're at the convention center. You look good, by the way. You look good. Thank you, Minute. Okay, now I'm going to tell you where the money is. By the way, I'm a full-time activist. But the backbone of my audacity is my beloved wife. Stand up, please. Yeah. Okay, usually people ask me, how do you make money doing what you're doing? Where is the money? I'll tell you where the money is. In the Montgomery County, the county gives $1 billion contract to everyone. It could be supplying toilet paper, it could be IT services, it could be construction. That billion, 25% of that billion is reserved for minority businesses. None of you are there. Unless you're active, you'll never access that money. In fact, one time I spoke with the director of procurement. I was shocked to see in the application process prior engagement with the county was a requirement. We had it taken out. So there is money in the county, but you have to be active. Okay, let me take you to the state level. The state of Maryland gives $7 billion business. 35% of it is reserved for minority and small businesses. That's what the money is, even to make money. Okay? So talk to me later. I can tell you what you need to do before you access that money. Now I'm going to talk about a big picture. We're all here pushing the American dream. I'm sorry to tell you, you're pushing the wrong dream. You know why? You need to be here for 3 generations in order to qualify. The people before you have a big advantage over you. And then you have to disqualify half of you because you have to be an American to pursue it. Your Ethiopian asset will be automatically disqualified. Forget the American dream. Push an African dream in America. Now you will be powerful. I'll tell you what my African dream is. My wife and I have been developing a business model we call Benefit Corporation that aspires to give 400,000 small coffee farmers in Ethiopia, an active presence in this market. You know why? The farmer does 90% of the work, only gets 1% of the money we pay at Starbucks. For a 90% input, 1%. A Starbucks does 10% of it and keeps 90% of the money we pay, and we give Starbucks over $40 million a year. And instead of converting that money to do our business, to partner with the farmer, bring our product, value added, brand it, sell it to the consumer. And we have given the 400,000 small coffee farmers $6 investment per farmer. That is $2.4 million. We're encouraging them, we're bugging them to come and sign on 50% of the money, the business will own. That will increase their take from 1% to over 38%. Now we're making money. It's not only coffee. I call it Benefit Corporation for Africa Initiative. It's the first prototype. We can do that with areke, we can do that with shiro, we can do that with awaze. Do you know sriracha? The awaze you buy at the Chinese store is $1 billion market created by a Vietnamese refugee who came here in the 80s. So, the make money, capitalize your social capital, galvanize your political capital, and now you're purchasing and your investment power is the last piece. You know, our Prime Minister said, take $1 out of your daily coffee, which is fine. How about if 500,000 Ethiopians invest and consume $10,000 a year? That's $5 billion to invest and consume in Ethiopian products. 105 million Ethiopians only get $3 billion from the world market. We, 500,000 Ethiopian diaspora, have $5 billion investment and consumption power. Pursue an African dream in America. Make money, help our people. So, civic engagement is directly related to that. Let me tell you how that is directly related to that. Benefit Corporation for Africa, Blessed Coffee is the first model. We have an organization we call US Africa Diaspora Business Council that aspires to inspire and support other African migrants and entrepreneurs to duplicate the model across the continent. It could be gold, it could be cocoa, it could be shea butter, it could be cashew. Africans' presence in the global markets is really marginalized. A cocoa farmer from Ghana cannot afford to buy a chocolate candy for his son because he's selling it dirt cheap. Wake up, use your political power, stay engaged, and redirect your purchasing and your investment power. Be rich, make a difference. I really tell you, next year, the US government, US Congress, we're going to lobby to make sure that my initiative, our initiative, Benefit Corporation for Africa, is considered as an amendment to African Growth Opportunity Act. I'm lining up, sponsors, I'm lining up. We can change the policy. We can change the policy. Africa Growth Opportunity Act is an amazing opportunity we can tap into. So at the end of the day, your civic engagement is your life. You don't wake up and do what you're supposed to do, you're gonna be marginalized. You're gonna be pushed to the side of history. And our kids will be lost. And we are a very critical generation. Unless we build that institution now, we can't save our children. The children we paid a dearly price to, we'll lose them. So your civic engagement is your oxygen. Go find out who represents you on a county level. Go find out who represents you on a state level. Go find out who represents you on a federal level. Look at their agenda. Are they advancing your agenda? Vote, get involved, volunteer, stay awake. Otherwise,
Thank you. We're a couple minutes over, but if you two can share briefly, and then we'll come to an end here.
Briefly, the key is to stay engaged, to organize, be organized, stay organized, register to vote, use the power of your voice, and you will be heard. So, when you're organized, I know we have we have differences among ourselves. And that's part of the reason why we are so fractured. We're too many. We don't have uniformity to our voice. So collectively, we're not heard. So let's put our differences aside for a second. When it comes to the affairs of our communities, our country here, this country is my country as much as it is any other American's country. We have to understand that. We have to own it. We pay our taxes here. We own properties here. Some of us own businesses here. So I don't see why this is not my country. So there is this mentality that we always think that we are foreigners here and somehow we don't belong here, therefore we don't engage. That is exposing us for all kinds of problems. So let's put our differences from back home aside. Our religious differences, our African politics, whatever it may be. When it comes to the affairs of our communities here, the things that affect us, let's be unified and be one voice. Then you have power. When you're unified, when you're organized, when you have unity, there's nobody that can stop you. The only limit that you have is your own limitation as to how much you can go, how far you can go. So if I, an African immigrant, can show up in a majority white community and ask them to vote for me, and if I can make a relationship, if I can create that relationship and forge a relationship with them, that unity with them, enough for them to believe in my vision and my leadership and invest their trust in me to make the laws that affect the entire state. We can do that among ourselves. We have a lot more in common that will unify us than divides us. So let's stay organized. Find some kind of organization. If there is not one, create one. You become the trailblazer. Create one. Get a bunch of people together. Register them to vote. Become aware of what's happening around you. And stay engaged. When you are engaged, people will know you. The power of your voice will be known, and you'll be powerful. And let me add one more thing. I know we are out of time. We Ethiopians especially, if there is no money in something, we're not engaged. We don't participate. If we don't see the dollar associated to our activities, we think that's a lost cause. Some people look at me and they go like, what the hell are you doing? I'll tell you, because of my campaign, I've taken a hit on my business. My business suffered, my family suffered, I suffered. It was quite a lot of sacrifice. But you have to have eyes that understand the benefit behind your sacrifice today. So let's start believing in volunteerism. Start donating your time, if you can, your money. Show up and volunteer at your local nonprofit, your local elected officials. They need your help. When they see you, when they start associating the face to the issues in the communities, they step up and they start resolving them. If we don't start believing in volunteerism, we're not going to get anywhere. So let me add this and I'll finish. Part of the reason why I ran for office, aside from all these other issues that we've been facing in the community, is to give back to the nations that gave me so much. If I was still in Africa, if I was still in the type of situation where I was 18 years ago before I immigrated here, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't have the opportunities that were provided to me. So when I came here, I didn't speak very well English. I still don't speak very well English. A lot of people welcomed me. A lot of people embraced me. They opened their doors. They welcomed me into their families. And they taught me. They guided me. They made me the kind of person that I have become today. So in part, why I am doing what I'm doing is to give back to the community, to the nation that gave me so much. We're gonna have to start believing and giving back. We can't just be the beneficiaries of the generosity of this nation. and not give back. At that point, we become parasites, and which is what a lot of people would like to label us as. We need to remove that label. We need to start believing in stay organized, stay engaged, start giving back, and you will be heard.
Thank you.
I'll be quick.
Last words, you can keep it really short.
So I just have two last pieces of advice. The first one is start now. You're never too young to get involved. You're never too new to get involved. Don't wait for someone to invite you. I'm 26. I was 13 when I joined my first campaign. And all I did was I volunteered for one day. There was a city councilor in my city. She was running for re-election, and she had met me in high school and said, you look like you're politically interested. Why don't you volunteer in my campaign? So I spent an entire day in the rain knocking on doors for her. It was my first time knocking on doors, and that was it. It was simple. But since then, I've worked professionally on 5 campaigns. Most recently, I was working, the judge is still here, I was working on a district attorney's race in Suffolk County in Boston, and it's actually the first race that they're having in 150 years for Suffolk County DA, because each DA just resigns and then their successors appointed. So just start. Don't wait for someone to invite you. I think the easiest way to get involved is to just volunteer for a day, volunteer for an event, just see how it is. Maybe it's not your thing, and that's cool too. And there are different tracks of volunteering. You can knock on doors, you can make phone calls, you can send emails, you can be active on social media, you can host fundraisers and other gatherings. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and I'll leave you with this, is learn how to build coalitions. When you're walking on the street, you're not Ethiopian, you're not Eritrean, you're not African, you're not an immigrant, you're just black. That's the reality. In this country, you're just black. When you're walking on the street, you're just black. If I'm walking on the street in Cambridge, if I have my basketball shorts on and a hoodie, I'm just black. No one knows where I'm from. No one cares about my ethnicity or my religion. That doesn't matter. So learn how to build coalitions with our African American brothers and sisters. Remember, they've been doing this for far longer than any of us have been in this country, all right? We owe it to them. Everything that we're able to take advantage of, the fact that we can sit wherever we want, we can eat wherever we want, we can go to school wherever we want. Hell, we could even become a judge. We can sentence people, or we can give them another chance. and that's really because of the African American civil rights movement, right? And labor, that all comes from them. Yeah. And so when we stand up, as I think it was Almaz Nagash in the previous panel, you're not special. We're not special. I know we like to think that Ethiopians are God's greatest gift to the world. And I think I am my mother's greatest gift to the world. But I really think that we have to work with other communities, build those coalitions, because our problems are not exclusive to us. We face the same housing, health, education, transportation issues that everyone else faces. So when we build coalitions as blacks, as immigrants, as people, just in general, as humans, as millennials, we can get a lot done. There's an Ethiopian proverb, 50 lemons is a burden for one man, but for many it's a jewel. So that's where I'll leave you. Thank you.
Well, what a phenomenal panel here. Hopefully you all took some great wisdom, are feeling empowered. If we could give them, as well as Samhar, who couldn't make it out today, a round of applause for all their work. Thank you for all the work you do in the community. Keep it going. Remember, connect with them. Each of them invited you to come up and talk to them. So stay after, get to know them, and let's continue to empower each other. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you for your fantastic moderation.
Thank you.